When it comes to warning about the unseen dangers influencing our future, Elon Musk doesn't mince words, and you might already have one of those dangers in your refrigerator. In the European Union, foods containing titanium dioxide, the same ingredient used in sunscreen and even paint, are prohibited. However, in the United States, it continues to find its way into common beverages, such as natural and healthful bottled teas. Why are we still permitting a drug that is deemed too dangerous abroad to find its way into drinks that our families unquestionably consume, in a nation where the number of cancer diagnoses among those under 50 has increased by about 80% in recent years? How often have you purchased one of these teas, thinking it was a wise decision, only to find out it contains the same type of unidentified substance Musk has warned about, one that might subtly harm public health for decades? The truth becomes personal in this devastating story. You might never trust your favorite tea again after learning which brands made the list of 6 bottled teas you should stop drinking right away. First place. Snapple drinks manage to infiltrate our life without us even recognizing the extent of the habit. Years ago, Snapple made a splash in grocery stores with its vibrant colors, witty facts beneath the cap, and branding that resembled an old friend's handshake. When the day eventually cooled up, you could take one for a long drive, store a few in the refrigerator for when the kids come over, or have a leisurely sip on the porch. Such a small moment of peace in a world when such things are no longer given out for free. Most people believed the label's claim that it was all natural, because, well, why not? A tea company can undoubtedly fulfill its promises in a nation capable of sending a man to the moon. But that comfortable faith was ripped from us in 2024 by the headlines. Snapple was accused of distorting the facts in a federal class action case, arguing that their all-natural label was as genuine as an artificial plant in a diner window. The heart of the issue? Yes, citric acid, that lemony, acidic punch, but not the kind that comes from freshly squeezed fruit. In a controlled laboratory setting, sugar and black mold were fermented to create this industrial version. Yes, it's technically legal, but when you hear the word natural, most people think of something else entirely. It's like buying a fresh pie only to open the box and see a frozen factory stamp inside when you pay more for natural and discover it's brewed in vats rather than orchards. The definition game is just the beginning of the problems. For many years, manufactured citric acid has been scrutinized. Although the FDA considers it generally safe, some research has cast doubt on its ability to cause inflammation. Something that subtly causes greater pain is a serious problem for an elderly body that is already dealing with arthritis, stomach issues, or persistent aches. And the betrayal of that happy, sunny picture Snapple created is just as hurtful as the substance itself. They relied on the fact that the majority of consumers would not look past the attractive label. Customers have been complaining about the taste lately. Too sugary or not as fresh. And it's not just rumors. Following post-pandemic recipe changes, it's also appearing in small-town news and retail reviews. They use artificial sweeteners in some of their diet teas, something Europe has long disapproved of. Imagine attempting to be healthy by avoiding sugar, only to replace it with something that makes you question whether you've simply exchanged one issue for another. Keurig Dr. Pepper, the parent firm of Snapple, has been tightening its belt. Longer shelf life over fresher taste, centralized factories, and less expensive ingredients. You only notice that subtle shift when your favorite drink no longer tastes the way you remember it. Perhaps it is the harsh reality. These decisions are sometimes made under pressure from growing expenses, inflation, and a never-ending battle for shelf space against powerful corporations, rather than with malice. The greater picture is worth a little sleep loss for. How many other designations are really marketing poetry if all natural can be extended here? How much of what we rely on is conceived in a boardroom PowerPoint, and how much is birthed in the fields? Furthermore, what does it say about the future of the food we leave for future generations if even the neighborly brands of our young people are making these subtle concessions? For this reason, some people are avoiding the aisle completely, making their own black or green tea, adding slices of fruit or fresh lemon, and avoiding the unknown ingredients. Sometimes regional brands at farmers markets keep things simple, with a tablespoon of raw honey blended in your own home and shorter ingredient lists and sources they'll actually talk about. You have power over that sweetness. No fine print is necessary. 2. Pure leaf. You may find it in any corner store or gas station, standing a little taller and wearing its simple label, as if it had nothing to conceal. For a long time, Pure Leaf has been marketed as the adult version of bottled tea, the brand's certain assurance of freshly brewed tea, refusing concentrates and powders in favor of leaves, water, and integrity. The bottle is trying to convince you of that. When you want to avoid the sugar-filled hazards of the soda aisle, you grab this one. The name itself carries a hint of hope. Pure, untainted, and unadulterated. Pure Leaf has seemed like the somewhat more expensive but safer option. Worth the extra pennies for peace of mind, for employees stopping by for lunch in between shifts, parents preparing for their kids, and retirees speeding down the interstate. However, when the fine print catches up with the front, peace of mind tends to crumble. Label. According to a federal class action complaint filed in early 2025, Pure Leaf was interpreting "brewed in the USA" in ways that most consumers wouldn't anticipate. The real tea leaves, which are the main ingredient in the beverage, may have accrued more frequent travel miles than the typical retiree, even though the brewing does indeed take place here. Some are imported with little more than a nod and a stamp from nations with pesticide laws that are slightly laxer than those in the United States. It's similar to purchasing farm-fresh eggs, only to discover that the chickens are located halfway around the world. For those who saw Brewed in the USA and imagined verdant fields in the Carolinas, this is when the situation becomes even more bleak. The FDA detected shipments of imported tea in 2024 that included pesticide residues that were previously prohibited throughout the European Union. A lot, but not all, are caught by testing. That's not a reassuring roll of the dice for a grandparent considering the long term for the children or for someone whose immune system doesn't recover as quickly as it once did. All of a sudden, Pure begins to sound less like a true statement and more like a marketing slogan. The brand's brilliance was then battered by another blow. In the middle of 2024, a separate consumer organization tested several bottled teas, including Pure Leaf, and discovered trace amounts of lead and other hazardous elements. As a component of the PepsiCo Unilever machine, Pure Leaf travels through an incredibly efficient supply chain, but one in which a single supplier's decision can have a significant impact on millions of bottles. A truth about our food system is revealed by the lawsuit and the lab results. Maintaining all of the promises listed on the label becomes more difficult as the network grows. But it's important to recognize the strain they face before we paint the label as a villain. There's just not enough tea grown in the U.S. to stock store shelves all year round. They are nearly compelled to make these decisions because they compete in a global tea market that depends on imports. Instead of letting us fill in the voids with optimistic assumptions, the true question may be whether marketers should be honest about that. And that is where the discussion should head. Because how many other food terms that we trust are being subtly changed if Pure can be this adaptable? How much of our trust in the companies we pursue is based on their performance and how much on their shortcomings? These are questions concerning the entire chain that provides us with food, not just tea. There are solutions for people who still want that brewed, crisp flavor without having to guess. Smaller companies such as Sparkling Botanicals from Rishi Tea are transparent about the origins of each leaf. With loose leaf from U.S. producers like Charleston Tea Garden, you have complete control over the brew. You may maintain your favorite look while cutting out by cold brewing your own and then pouring it back into a Pure Leaf bottle that has been rinsed. The luggage. Because Pure should ultimately be more than just a word. It should be something you can taste and trust. Third, iced tea from Arizona. Some businesses sell you a product, while others sell you an idea that is so ingrained in your mind that it seems indestructible. The latter was the foundation of Arizona's empire. In corner stores and gas stations, those tall pastel cans were arranged like neon totems. Like a badge of distinction, the large 99 cents were printed. For years, you could purchase a chilled, large can that promised a full summer supply of refreshment with just one crumpled dollar bill. It served as a small protest against the rising costs of everything else and a reminder that there was still something affordable, accessible, and cold in America. However, that reassuring agreement ended up before a judge in 2025. The company is currently embroiled in a legal dispute over its assertion that it does not use preservatives but utilizing artificial citric acid covertly, the industrial form of lemon fermented from black mold that feeds on sugar rather than the mild flavor of a natural lemon. The plaintiffs contend that the marketing is, at best, deceptive because this ingredient actually functions as a preservative. It's a disappointment that hurts more than any price increase for customers who specifically chose Arizona to avoid chemical additives, particularly older Americans who are conscious of what they put into their bodies. And the first loose thread is citric acid. In 2024, independent nutritional assessments revealed the sugar burden concealed in several Arizona tastes. One tall can has more than 50 grams of added sugar. For women, that is more than twice the daily allowance recommended by the American Heart Association, and for men, it is nearly the entire maximum. Although sugar doesn't garner as much attention as pesticides, its impacts are subtle: obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, health struggles that older generations already face. A short-term, inexpensive treat could become a long-term medical debt that is subsequently recouped through doctor visits and medical expenditures. And there's the haze of sourcing. The origins of the tea leaves are kept secret despite Arizona's fondness of displaying genuine brewed on its labels. Large-scale production in the ready-to-drink tea sector frequently necessitates purchasing from international commodities markets, where standards for processing, pesticide use, and soil quality vary greatly from shipment to shipment. Arizona's silence is more than just a missing piece of information at a time when other businesses are disclosing their sourcing information. It's a breach in the confidence they have established. Another ripple occurred by the end of 2024. Complaints regarding metallic aftertastes or strange odors in specific cans increased on online consumer forums. These reports frequently allude to problems like equipment residue or improper storage handling, even if no comprehensive recall was carried out. Even little slip-ups feel like a violation of the unspoken agreement between a business and its clientele for a brand that has built its reputation on the promise of excellent taste and affordability. What about the marketing? It's a visual masterpiece: sunlight glinting on plump peaches, fresh lemons that could be rolled off the label. Ginseng blooms like a brochure for a health spa. However, the ingredients list frequently conveys a different message, one of artificial flavorings, acids, and sweeteners. It is not illegal to sell sugar water, using images of nutritious tea to sell sugar water. It enters the domain of manipulation at that point. What's left for people who want to hold that big chili can without having to deal with the legal hassles or the chemical conundrum? Similar big can energy is provided by Peace Tea, albeit some flavors use less sugar. Although Honest Tea Organic relies on USDA organic certification and more open sourcing, they nevertheless keep their products in bottles. Better yet, you may brew gallon amounts of bulk tea blends from reliable co-ops at home and store them in the refrigerator so you can pour them into your own insulated tumbler. Add some fresh lemon or peach slices overnight, and you'll have something that maintains the zesty, cool atmosphere that Arizona is known for. You'll know exactly what's in it this time. 4. Lipton Brisk RTD Teas. The bright yellow Lipton logo is as recognizable in an American kitchen as the creak of an old porch step. It has been a part of everyday life for generations. The Pepsi-Lipton tea partnership has successfully established itself in both the serene and the chaotic nooks of American society. From the glass of iced tea given at Sunday lunch, to Brisk's wild, graffiti-splattered bottles that youngsters grip at the skate park. Presented as though each bottle bears a little more care, this pairing positions itself as tea for every table, calming for some and energetic for others. When international news revealed that Lipton teas and infusions had halted purchases from a Kenyan mill following claims of sexual abuse against a top director, the brand's upbeat image took a darker turn in July 2024. These were not isolated incidents. Rather, They were a component of a larger study on exploitation on tea plantations around the world. The idea that the leaves in a glass of Lipton could be linked to fields where human value is viewed as expendable stings like a fracture in the cup itself for someone sipping their beverage on their porch. Furthermore, this was not a singular incident. It revealed how extensive and poorly regulated the world's tea supply chain can be. A different kind of warning is carried by Brisk, Lipton's louder and more colorful sibling. One, based on the list of ingredients. Brisk's flavors were bursting with high fructose corn syrup, potassium sorbate, sodium benzoate, and, in certain cases, red 40 dye, according to a 2024 label review conducted across retail locations. All are okay in the US, but not at all in other countries. For example, items that contain red 40 must have a warning label in the European Union that links it to possible hyperactivity in youngsters. Although the amounts in beverages are usually tiny, sodium benzoate and vitamin C can combine to form benzene, a known carcinogen. Your health is already a delicate balance. Low risk may seem like just another gradually mounting price that your body must pay. The uneasiness is only increased by following the trajectory of these drinks. Before tea leaves ever come into contact with a brewing tank, they may traverse multiple borders. The safety records of industrial vendors from whom sweeteners and preservatives are sourced are rarely made public. The drink is more the result of a vast worldwide logistical network by the time it reaches your hands from the shop cooler than it is a taste of any one farm. The disconnect then becomes apparent. The promise of taste-tested quality and tranquil images of undulating tea fields continue to be staples of Lipton's advertising. Brisk uses strong imagery and exuberant taglines to promote themselves. The contrast between these glossy pictures and the concealed realities, however, is unavoidable for the increasing number of consumers who really inspect what's in the bottle. Convenience should not be completely sacrificed for those seeking a more transparent route. Teatulia Organic makes the source as obvious as the tea itself by providing single-origin tea from a recognized cooperative in Bangladesh. Tazo Organic Iced Teas, or Ortsvik Korparski Werk. Gold Thread plant-based tonics can provide flavor with cleaner labels if you're looking for bottled tea without Brisk's chemical profile. Additionally, if you want complete control, steeping a pot of strong black tea at home and sweetening it with real maple syrup provides you the comfort of knowing exactly what ingredients went into your glass, while also adding depth of flavor without the processed sugar surge. Gold Peak is number 5. For years, the Gold Peak brand has surrounded itself with images that evoke pleasant feelings. A red checkered tablecloth spread out beneath an ancient oak tree, a mason jar perspiring in the summer heat, cousins giggling over a barbecue while someone tops off your glass with sweet tea. Warm tones and a sophisticated home-brewed taste, writing on the label, give you the impression that the contents are prepared in the kitchen rather than on a production line. In a sea of marketing noise, Gold Peak frequently feels like the safe haven for elderly consumers passing a cooler full of gaudy, eye-catching labels. However, that peaceful harbor was shattered in January 2025. After increased chlorate levels were linked to a water treatment problem at a facility in Belgium, Coca-Cola's European division, which owns Gold Peak, was compelled to recall a number of beverages, including its Fuse tea range. The lesson for American consumers was unavoidable, even though the tragedy had place on the other side of the Atlantic. However, Forks operated in the same way in the top 3, with the same corporate governance, sourcing, and quality control processes. Gold Peak is philosophy. Chlorates are not innocuous. They can impair thyroid function in sufficient quantities, particularly in children or those with low iodine levels. They are severely restricted by the European Union for a reason. What's to say this kind of oversight couldn't occur covertly here if it can occur in one area of the operation? That headline followed another setback in confidence. A consumer watchdog research from the middle of 2024 discovered regional variations in Gold Peak's sugar level. Compared to what the Nutrition Facts panel stated, some bottles of the same flavor tested 15 and 20% higher. It wasn't enough to cause a recall, but for drinkers who have diabetes or are at risk for developing the disease, this isn't just careless bookkeeping. It's the kind of covert error that can cause real-time disruptions in blood sugar regulation. Suppose you believe you have the numbers correct only to discover that they never match the drink in the first place. While the home-brewed taste evokes images of small batch care, the sourcing tale adds another level of uncertainty. According to insiders, a large portion of Gold Peak's tea comes from the same international commodity markets as other Coca-Cola tea brands. It undermines the "from my kitchen to yours" vibe, but that doesn't necessarily indicate it's of poor quality. Keeping the origin unclear feels more like a purposeful omission than an oversight in the modern world, where consumers flip bottles to read tiny print. Additionally, certain Gold Peak cultivars have undergone a minor alteration in recent years. Even in lines that were historically praised for their authentic brewed character, the primary factor influencing taste is the shift toward natural tastes. Natural flavors, as defined by U.S. labeling regulations, can refer to nearly anything that comes from a natural source, including lab-concentrated extracts that have been treated with solvents or carriers that are never required to be listed as ingredients. For those who purchased Gold Peak due to its seeming simplicity and directness, this change is akin to watching the company gradually replace its porch swing with a boardroom chair. Options that preserve the gentle, Southern-style tea experience are available to those who are unable to accept the uncertainty. USDA organic certification, transparent ingredient lists, and the added benefit of charitable donations are all provided by Newman's own organic iced tea. Another store gem is Hebel Organic Yerba Mate, which provides caffeine derived from tea without the use of chemical ingredients and complete sourcing transparency. And nothing compares to creating it yourself if you're looking for the purest form of the home-brewed ideal. Gold Peak markets. Make a large batch of Lucien or Tetley iced tea, add agave or raw sugar to taste, and then chill it in a glass pitcher. In this manner, the tea in your glass will have the flavor you enjoy and the assurance that you know exactly where it came from, without any guesswork or fine print surprises. Sixth, at one point, the moniker Honest Tea did all the work. Honest was a handshake in a bottle, not simply a brand. Less sugar, organic leaves, and the assurance that you wouldn't need to closely examine the ingredient list to feel secure. Honest Tea appeared to be the straightforward friend you could rely on for customers sifting through stores full of labels that read like scientific studies. For older Americans who were watching every gram of sugar and searching for organic seals that truly meant something, it was the drink they reached for when they wanted to feel good about what they were putting into their bodies. However, the luster had faded by 2024. The initial warning arrived in a state of disarray. In 2022, Coca-Cola formally discontinued the original Honest Tea range, replacing it primarily with kids' juices bearing the Honest brand and a smaller selection of ready-to-drink tea. The branding remained, not so much the soul. Watchdogs for consumers began coining a word for it. Label legacy laundering is the practice of using the Honest label on beverages that no longer adhere to the flavor integrity or sourcing guidelines upon which the brand had established its reputation. Many consumers assumed that the bottles still adhered to the principles listed on the front and continued to drink without realizing the recipes had altered. Then came the kind of discovery that leaves you feeling sick to your stomach. A U.S. nonprofit food safety organization published test results in early 2025 that revealed glyphosate traces in several organic drinks, including various varieties of Honest Tea. In countries like Germany, France, and Austria, glyphosate, the contentious herbicide at the heart of international health discussions, is either restricted or completely prohibited because of the possible cancer risks associated with prolonged exposure. Tiny levels are permissible under USDA organic regulations due to unintentional contamination from environmental drift. However, to the typical consumer, organic means they shouldn't have to consume a chemical they had previously believed to be completely avoidable. It's more than just a gap. This ironic twist gives the word honest an unpleasant taste. The sugar tail itself isn't as tidy as the branding implies. Despite the bottle's bold claims that they're only somewhat sweet, certain tastes nonetheless contain 15 to 19 grams of sugar. Sure, it's better than soda, but it's still enough to raise blood sugar, particularly in people with type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. Furthermore, seniors who closely monitor every carbohydrate may find it dangerously simple to underestimate the impact due to the label's relaxed, healthful tone. Add to that a change in sourcing that took place in the background in the middle of 2024. According to an industry trade report, Honest's tea leaves are increasingly sourced from major commodity suppliers in Asia and Africa, distancing themselves from the tiny direct trade farms that were formerly featured in its advertising. This alteration not only obscures the origins of the tea, but also eliminates the information about labor conditions, pesticide use, and environmental effects that initially attracted socially conscious consumers to the brand. There are better options for individuals who are still seeking the original honest promise. Numi Organic Tea. RTD satisfies the level of openness consumers believed they were purchasing by providing complete organic certification, direct trade sourcing, and zero artificial flavors. Republic of Tea. Organic iced teas eliminate the possibility of glyphosate through stringent third-party testing, adding an additional degree of confidence. You may also make your own organic tea at home. Add a spoonful of local honey and let it cool down instead of buying it from the store. You can adjust the sweetness, it's less expensive, and you can drink without worrying about the fine print. Each drink conceals a tale. Join us as we uncover the truth, safeguard your health, and subscribe now to see what comes next. Many thanks for staying with us all the way through. To ensure you don't miss any daily uploads, please hit the like button and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Go ahead and watch some of our best suggested videos as they appear on your screen. I'll see you at the next one. Goodbye.